Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack here, Thursday now, the 19th of September. Still 2024. Just a few months left. But yes, it is also still hurricane season. Also a few months left in that. And as such, we need to talk about this area down in the Western Caribbean Sea. Eventually, something looks like it's going to try to form. National Hurricane Center says that a tropical depression could form from this Central American gyre. All that energy that's going to try to come together down there over the warmest water in the Western Hemisphere. And we've got to discuss that, plus a little interesting wrinkle in what might be coming up. Some interesting stuff I'll show you as we progress through today's update. All right? Thank you for joining me. Great to have you. Let's get started at the National Hurricane Center homepage. Not an invest area yet, what we call like the 91L or whatever, but that's coming. A couple days probably. But this is our system, 40% chance of further development. And the forecaster down there, Dr. Richard Pash, says a tropical depression could form as the system moves slowly to the north or northwest over the northwestern Caribbean Sea and into the southern Gulf of Mexico through the middle part of next week. So this is going to be painfully slow to watch. And again, I mentioned this a little bit yesterday, perhaps to our detriment. We all have access to all of the data all of the time, right at our fingertips, and it can become sort of an obsessive nature at how we look at everything. We post stuff, we don't think about maybe who we might be upsetting without context. All kinds of things go into this, don't they? Yes, they do. And to that point, this is going to take several days for it to come together. We don't have an identifiable tropical wave, for example, coming off of Africa with this system that's sitting over here, for example, that we can see. This thing is not even there yet. The Central American gyre has not even set up shop. It is a process that goes on in the atmosphere. And while that is setting up at the lower levels, in the upper levels, we're going to have a much more favorable pattern. And I can show you that as we go through today's update. So again, a lot of interesting details in how all of this is going to evolve over the coming days. But as for now, as I mentioned, nothing out there right now. The clouds are still going straight across here. A little bit, just a little bit more of convergence. And I can tell that the convergence is there because we are starting to get some thunderstorms widely scattered there in the extreme Western Caribbean Sea. And convergence, of course, is when the air comes together. It converges, and it has to go up. And that convergence is starting to happen. So we're starting to see just a little bit of a hint of some change here. More cloudiness and showers over here. Thunderstorms, too. Probably very heavy rain into those things. Way down in the tropics in the extreme southeast Caribbean Sea. But we're not seeing just yet the evidence of this big CAG taking shape just now. It's going to take a few more days. Also, out in the open Atlantic, the dance of these two systems is kind of interesting. And we need to watch what might be coming off Africa in a few days. The Cape Verde season, the MDR season, however you want to look at it, not completely shut out just yet. There is the possibility that we could have two trackable features on the map, and both of them potentially formidable as we progress through the next week to 10 days. And it's going to be an interesting time of it as we round out the month of September. So looking on the very much adored vorticity map, I love this, and it really helps me to understand what's where underneath those clouds. You really can. It's like looking under the hood. And there is some energy over here in the East Pac, and it's just starting to curl in. Very subtle. It's there. And we're going to watch this because what I want you to notice along with me over the next few days as I do these updates is how much more of these colors we start to get down here. How much more does that vorticity start to show up. And then do we get a piece that kind of looks like this or like this over here that starts to rotate in and consolidate. We're going to be able to watch this unfold in near real time, right in front of our eyes every time these maps and charts update, and we'll see how it all unfolds. But again, as you can clearly see, I'll just draw a box around this area for now. There's nothing there. Not yet. But the underlying background state looks like it's going to be favorable, and we should start to see something pop up. The models are in complete unanimous agreement about it in terms of the genesis, that something will happen, but the question of where does said feature end up, how strong will it be when it gets there, all that kind of stuff, we have no idea. And that's just the easy way to explain that. We just don't have an idea this far out in time. So what do we know? Well, let's jump over them and get back at you. You know my expression, I like to talk to you, not just at you. So we have the GFS, we have the Euro, we have the Canadian, we've got AI models now, we have the Icon, which I think is a German-run model, all kinds of stuff. And then we have the ensembles, which are sort of the background support, if you will, the what-if scenarios. And all that added up, yes, the overall consensus is something's going to try to develop down in this area of the Western Atlantic Basin, somewhere in the vicinity of the Yucatan Channel, Western Caribbean Sea. Even that we're not quite sure of just yet, because as you can see, this is the analysis map for today. There's nothing there yet. The wind barbs, as they trek through the Caribbean, are pretty much straight east to west. We call those easterlies. When we talk about wind, you talk about the direction that the wind is coming from. So if you say there's a west wind at 5 miles per hour, that means the wind is coming from the west, not blowing to the west. Just in case you didn't know that, now you do. Easterly wind means the wind is coming from the east. And that is still very much the case down here in the Western Caribbean. So let's just jump this out to 48 hours, shall we? So there's 48 hours, and now since we're a day later than yesterday, right? Very good, Mark. You can still keep up with time. It is true. It's a day later, so we're closer. Okay? And each one of these updates that I do, you'll see this evolve. And that is part of what's so fascinating about all this. So just 48 hours out, Saturday morning, now we start to see some changes. The wind directions through here are starting to kind of pivot around, and we're getting the beginnings of that Central American gyre setting up. There's just more curvature. And you can clearly see there's more energy starting to gather down here by way of the vorticity signature in the numeric model output here from the GFS operational. 72 hours out, day 3, same kind of thing. It is starting to come together more. 96 hours out, now this to me is a huge benchmark, and this is what I would look at naturally. So if I won that Mega Millions the other day, that was like $800 million, I would still do this, and I really would. I know you might, oh, sure you would. Oh, yeah. And I'm just saying, like, I would look at, but my point is, I would do this looking at everything with or without a YouTube audience. Like, I don't do this for your benefit. This is exactly what I look at. I share this stuff with my colleagues. Like, I'm not doing this for the benefit of views and likes and shares. And I'm not saying that like in a negative way where people try to defend what they're doing. This is exactly what I would look at even if I was a multimillionaire and I didn't need an income. That's my point. And it's important because I look at these things and I work with my colleagues and I say, what are different benchmarks in time that we can look for? And if we hit those benchmarks, then we know something is either true in the model world, now it's happening in reality, or it is not. And it helps us with reliability. And so anyway, that's just how the process works up here and over here. That's what I look at. So 96 hours out, to me, very important because A, you definitely have the CAG look sitting down here. B, all this little area of energy sitting over here, these little globs of vorticity, not a meteorological term, glob, but these lobes of vorticity, and they're going to be rotating around. In fact, let's just go back and look at this frame by frame. Look at the whole thing spinning. I mean, that's why we call it a gyre. It is so easy to see it there, just spinning around, and then you get these pieces of energy that come around, and then that day 4 into day 5 time frame, it starts to try to consolidate more and more in the vicinity of the Northwest Caribbean here, and that'll be our benchmark time between days 4 and days 5. That if something does try to get going, we're going to be able to see it. We're going to go back and look at this, and it should match similar to what this shows. And that'll tell us, 4 to 5 days from now, if what we see, and even in the modeling, 5 days from now, is this what it looks like? And we'll know if the GFS is on the right track or if it is just not handling things properly. And again, since we don't know the future, we don't know how that'll work out. So that's day 5, and then finally at day 6, it's even more concentrated. And by now you would assume we'd be up to the code red from the National Hurricane Center, as we call it, and recon will probably be getting ready to go out there. All sorts of things happen if things progress the way the models are showing, and that just makes sense. But I'm just pointing it out. And finally, fully a week out, the GFS operational here, suggesting that we have potentially a tropical cyclone just north of the Yucatan Peninsula. Now, while all of that is happening, I want to expand this. I told you I had another little nugget for you. Look at what's going on out here. This is a week out in the main development region. Terrible arrow, but you get the idea. Maybe a piece of energy. Sorry, we got the yard guy out there, so you're going to hear the leaf blower. But maybe a piece of energy, I'll have to talk over him. Maybe a piece of energy comes out off Africa there and tries to develop. You can clearly see it. That's not even, that's day 6 and 7 right there. And we'll have to watch and see what this does, because if this were to organize quicker, this would get the H name if it goes on to develop. And then if this organizes at all, and there's no guarantee it will, this would be the I storm, the dreaded I storm. There's something about I hurricanes, just saying, in the Gulf of Mexico. And the name this year, of course, would be Isaac. We're up to Helene and then Isaac. So let's switch back over to the Western Atlantic and let's compare. Let's see, all right, is the GFS just not handling things properly? Well, if it is, it has company, because the Canadian, if we take this out, the CMC model, almost the exact same evolution, a larger area of energy overall. It's just the way the model handles the physics and the energy. But it, too, develops a tropical cyclone in the southern Gulf of Mexico by a week out. And, of course, what does the Euro show? Everybody wants to compare. Well, if the Euro shows it, then I'll believe it. Yeah, sometimes the Euro is late. Sometimes the Euro is very aggressive and nothing happens. The models are made by human beings, and that means the models can have errors, of course. So the Euro out to day 6 here on the Tidbit site focuses the energy, and this is important, more to the west over here in and around Central America, and not up here where the Canadian and the GFS has it. And that is a very, very key feature, because if this comes to pass, it's going to take longer for everything to come together. It's going to be buried over land more. The pattern up to the north can change. It just makes things more complicated, quite honestly, and no easy answers for sure. Just want to refresh this to see if we happen to have day 7. We don't at the moment. Maybe we can check back in a minute. That's fine. But yeah, very interesting how things evolve. And in fact, let's just take this to day 6, since that's what we do have, and let's compare it to the GFS at day 6, which is right there. And you look at the differences. Euro is more southwest, GFS is more northeast. Which one is going to be right? I don't know. And if I knew, I would absolutely tell you. Now, let me pop back on for a second, because this is important. We know, as far as we do know, right? At least we think we know, that we're going to get a Central American gyre setup. These are the sort of what we do know, right? Central American gyre sets up down there. Lobes of energy rotate around, might have something to consolidate and develop. All right, that's down at the surface. We also know that we have very warm sea surface temperatures, anomalously so, 1 to 2 degrees Celsius warmer than average. And in fact, that was yesterday. I was going to try to show you the comparison. Here's today, and even up here in the northern Gulf, and part of it's just the date, but part of it is the southerly flow that we're having come around from this nice big high sitting to the east. But water temperatures have gone up a little bit, at least the anomalies. So, and I wish I had it dating back several days ago, but you can see that's yesterday, this is today, and we are increasing it just a little bit. But it's probably because of the date as well, more than just, oh, the water's warming back up. A lot of different factors, but the bottom line, we know that we have warm water temperatures to work with. So let's go back to the GFS. This is the 5,000 foot level. I told you, the upper levels look like they're going to get very favorable, and that's what it looks like. A huge area of anticyclonic flow aloft. This massive upper level anticyclone parked right over the northwestern Caribbean Sea. And if we take this on out to day 6 and 7, you can see it is fairly ideal overall. You don't have these colors running right over the top of this. It's in that perfect area. In fact, this could act as a decent outflow for this system. There's your upper level low sitting over to the east. I mean, that's what you look for. You just pattern recognition, right? And this is what you see when you look for a potential developing stout hurricane. There's just no way around it. Like, that's just the facts. So we'll have to see how it all comes together over time with all these different factors. Let's see if I ad-libbed long enough. Yeah, we did get the 168. So there's 168. The Euro definitely burying it in the southwest Gulf and Bay of Campeche compared to the other models that are definitely more north and east up here. But anyway, the upper levels look very favorable, and with these water temperatures as warm as they are, again, that's yesterday, this is today, and then the actual temperatures, this is important, still quite warm. That's your 29 Celsius isotherm, line of equal temperatures, what that means. So you're talking about 83, something like that, Fahrenheit. And then this is your 30 degrees Celsius isotherm, and then 31 right up against southwest Florida, close to 31 all through down here. Absolutely the warmest water, certainly in the northwest Caribbean. And again, you know, not wanting to be promoting anxiety or anything like that, but it's hurricane season. We've got to pay attention to this stuff. We do not know where anything is going to end up, if anything forms at all. But looking at what we do know, it does give cause for just making sure you stay on top. And, you know, don't turn your back on it and think, hey, the hurricane season's good. We're in late September. At least we will be in the coming days, and everything's going to be fine. Maybe it will, but if it's not, I'm pretty sure you're going to want as much notice as possible. And that's what we're here, among other people that you trust in the weather community. That's what we're here to do, to help you do just that. All right? All right, so that is it from me for today. Have a good rest of your Thursday. We'll be on top of this, of course. I am Mark Sudduth from all of us at HurricaneTrack. Again, thank you for watching. I'll talk to you some more tomorrow.